Hi, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. We are doing my worst books of the year. Never done this video before, debated on doing one, decided to do it because I wanted to clarify a couple of things. Because one of these in particular is not a popular opinion. It is a very popular book and a very popular author. So I did have some questions on it. A couple people asked me like, why do you hate this book so much? Because I didn't go into it a lot whenever I did my original review because I didn't want to spoil it for anybody. So I was very vague. So I did have some questions, not just here, but on Instagram and other places. So yeah, I'm going to go into it a little bit more. Yeah, so here we go. I only have 6 because I'm very selective with my books and I'm pretty good about DNFing if I'm not really feeling it. And I don't typically review DNF books. So, actually I don't review DNF books. I mean, I might tell y'all, hey, I DNF'd this, but and I might tell y'all why I DNF'd it, but I don't put reviews on Goodreads or anything if I DNF a book. So anyhow, only have 6, so that's not too bad. Pretty good. The first one is Spookily Yours by Jennifer Chipman. You guys heard me talk about this not too long ago, so I won't say too much about it. It's set in a very autumnal witchy town. This girl, I don't even remember names. This girl's a witch. She adopts this black cat. The cat turns out to be a demon, and this demon needs her help getting back into his demon form. So instead of cat form, a witch turned him into a cat. Like, she cast a spell on him and turned him into a cat. So he needs this witch's help turning back into a demon. Well, the witch, she falls for him. I thought, whenever I'm looking at this and based on the back, I thought I was getting a cute, cozy autumnal read, which is what I was really wanting. It's what I was craving. It's what the cover looks like. Looks really sweet, cute, charming, very cozy, very autumnal. That's what I thought I was getting. I had several problems with this. First of all, the dialogue was absolutely awful. It was very immature, as best way I could put it. It was over the top cheesy. And I don't mind a cheesy romance. This was way over the top cheesy. Problem number 2, halfway through the book, the mood completely shifted, and instead of cozy, autumnal, cute, and witchy, it shifted to almost dark romance. Which is weird. Like, it was a huge turn off because all of us, I'm like, what the hell? Where did this come from? It was really weird. It was like, I don't know if somebody pissed the author off halfway through the book and her mood shifted, or what the hell happened. It was like a completely different person wrote the second half of the book. It was so weird. Yeah, and I didn't expect that. There's nothing on the back that insinuates that this is dark romance or anything. I really thought this was going to be cozy all the way through. So weird. And it became like this super possessive, you belong only to me, nobody else will have you. And I've read books like that and I don't mind dark romance if that's what I'm expecting. But for it to be half cozy witchy and half dark romance was very odd. And then also there was something that happens in the book where one of the characters, the character's reaction to this event was not believable at all. I'm pretty sure that's not how that would have gone at all. It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. There's a playlist in the beginning of this, and I like playlists. I think it's kind of a cool touch. The playlist was even really cheesy. Like, even the playlist wasn't good. There was a couple of good songs on it, but even the playlist was really cheesy. And the playlist doesn't match the second half of the book. The playlist matches the first half because the first half is cheesy as hell. And the dialogue in the second half is very cheesy too, but the dialogue in the second half of the book, though, is very like dark romance. Very weird. It was very odd and didn't work for me at all. So, yeah. Second, another Halloween book, and that is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. Okay, so this one I picked up because it was said to have Gilmore Girls vibes, and I freaking love Gilmore Girls. It did have that vibe. It did. It was autumnal. It was based in a New England town, so it did have the fall vibes, and also there was the banter between the main character and this man in flannel. Jeannie, her aunt, has gifted her the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and she's excited about it because it's like a fresh start. She's used, away from her, boring job. And Logan is the local farmer, and he's, this kind of sort of grumpy, is kind of the grumpy sunshine kind of thing. And, you know, he avoids the town gossip and all that at all costs. So, you know, he really tries to avoid Jeannie at first because, you know, she's this upbeat new girl and he's really kind of grumpy and he doesn't want anything to do with her. But then he's sort of drawn to her. That's the premise of this book. The only thing this book had going for it was vibes. Was the autumnal vibes, the town. He has these chickens that were named after pop stars, which was really cute. Like he has Lizzo, Rihanna, I don't remember. He has an alpaca named Harry Styles. That was really cute and fun. He rescues like farm animals. Loved that. And then the vibes. That was it. That's all I had going for it. Stars Hollow vibes would be banter, and it would be like this fun banter between the town's members and, you know, her and him. It tried, but the dialogue was awful. I mean, it just wasn't good. The dialogue wasn't good at all. It was very, you know, immature. It was very juvenile, and it just wasn't good. I can't count the freaking times the heat rose in the main character's cheeks. I don't freaking know how many times. Can we please pick something else? Can something else happen? There was other things that were just repeated. The same ideas were repeated over and over and over. It just was very redundant. No one had their own tone of voice. Like the dialogue for both characters, like it had the same tone. So I don't know if this is an audiobook. I don't know if it would be different for audiobook if they had different voices, like if there were two different characters for the audiobook, maybe it would help with that. I don't know, but I read it. It had the same tone for both characters. That didn't help matters any for the dialogue at all. Another problem I had was insta love. I mean, it was very instant. It was instant. It was very rushed. Everything in this felt so rushed. So many miscommunications, which is another thing I hate. I can't stand miscommunications, and there were so many of them. But yeah, nothing in this worked for me. It was a bummer. Book Talk steered me way wrong with this, to the point like I've got to stop listening to Book Talk. But yeah, this just didn't work at all. Next up, I have Stalking Jack the Ripper. I read this one with Kelly over at Kelly Hooked on Books and Christine with Secrets Read. We did a buddy read back in February, so it's been a while. I don't know if you remember me ranting about this book. Her uncle runs like a lab. I'm trying to remember. Her uncle runs like a lab where he autopsies bodies and tries to figure out like what happened. And she and her uncle are trying to figure out who Jack the Ripper is. And so, stalking Jack the Ripper, they're trying to figure out who he is. Yeah. This is supposed to be a feminist novel. This is supposed to be very feminist. It felt everything but feminist to me. So many issues. Very repetitive as far as her. It was very much I'm not like other girls. I'm different. I could do anything men can do. I don't need to be told what to do by men. I won't be led around by a man. But yet the whole time she was dependent on men for everything. And the whole time, you know, the whole book was her contradicting herself. Like, she would say, you know, I won't be led around by men. I won't be told what to do by a man. I could do anything men can do, you know. I won't be one of those girls that just falls for a guy or just, you know, falls for some pretty face or whatever. I don't even remember what all she said. But yet, she did. She did all the things that she said she wouldn't do. As soon as a man told her, you will do this, she would do it. Or she would depend on men for everything through the whole book. You know, it was just ridiculous. There was a love interest I didn't think was necessary at all. Like, what did that have to do with anything? Why was that necessary? And she's supposed to be this strong, independent woman, but yet there was a love interest. Why? Why? Why was that necessary? So stupid. And the love interest wasn't believable. Like, he himself as a character wasn't believable. I mean, I don't know. And like, no one is that smooth. To me, he just was not believable at all. Them solving the case wasn't believable. It was way too easy. Answers would just fall into their laps. Like, out of the clear blue sky, they would just miraculously know what happened and what the motive was or whatever. It would just be right there, right in their face. It was just too easy. The whole thing didn't work for me at all. And what really sealed the deal for me was the ending. I won't even tell you what happened, but the ending just was ridiculous to me. It did not work at all. It made absolutely no sense. The motive made no sense. Just nothing about it made sense to me. It just didn't work. I wasn't impressed. This one I read on Kindle Unlimited, so I'll put a picture of it here. That is The Christmas Murder Game by Alexandra Benedict. You just heard me talk about this one, so I'm not going to even tell you what it's about again. And you probably remember, like, all my issues that I had with it. But mainly, like, none of the characters they were all very basic. They were all, you didn't really get attached to anybody because they were all very base level. The main character, I feel like they made her too perfect almost. Like, she just, I don't know. They made her out to be like this really perfect person, I feel like, with no flaws almost. Like, she came all this way just to get answers about how her mom was killed, and everybody else is there fighting for the deed to the house. And this is this big, nice, like, mansion-y house, and yet she doesn't want it. It's like she's just there to get answers for how her mom was killed. And I don't know, just that wasn't believable at all. And she has this really snotty cousin, one in particular, but I mean, a couple of them are kind of somewhat likable, but one in particular was just very snotty. And I'm like, she's just giving her answers to things. Like, that's not really believable. I mean, who would do that? I knew who the killer was right away. Like, I knew immediately who was the problem. Like, I mean, it's so obvious. Another issue was the fact that if you read the synopsis, it makes it sound like there's something in it for the reader to figure out. Like, there's a mystery for the reader to figure out too. But there really wasn't, aside from the killer, which you know right away. But the riddles and stuff were things that only the characters in the book would know. So it's like, there was nothing fun in it for the reader to figure out. It would have been cool if the riddles were something that maybe the reader could kind of decipher too. But it wasn't. It was just, we would have no idea. It was stuff that only the people in the book would know. So there was really nothing in it for me at all. I'm trying to remember what else. But yeah, it was just, yeah, the characters were ridiculous. They were very, they were just very ridiculous. They were very basic. There was no character development really. Vibes though, the house was really cool. The setting was really good. All of that. But yeah, otherwise, like, it didn't work. It didn't work at all. I won't say too much more about it because you've just heard me rant about this. That's all I really say, but it just didn't work at all. And actually, I'll link the video where I talked about this because since I just talked about it, I'll link it down below on this one. Next up, we have The Island by Natasha Preston. This one, there are a bunch of social media influencers. They all have millions of followers. They're all, you know, wildly popular on social media. They get invited to this elite theme park. And like, this theme park is only for the ultra rich. And all these social media influencers get invited there to, you know, before it opens. So they get this time to take video, take pictures and all that to kind of build hype before it opens. Well, there's a killer. They end up fighting for their lives. It's a remote setting. It's stormy. You know, the setting is perfection. Really good. It's very creepy. The whole theme park setting it's very creepy. And it is YA. So I kept that in mind with my rating. I always do. I keep in mind the audience for this. Even YA, these characters were freaking idiots. They were so stupid. They made the dumbest decisions ever. I mean, they know that there's a killer on the loose. They already know that there's a killer. And there would be a noise and they're like, oh, I think that's just the wind. I think that's just the wind. It's fine. Okay, there's a literal fucking killer. And you're like, oh, it's just the wind. Like, y'all cannot be this dumb. But they really were that stupid. They were that stupid through the entire book. They made the dumbest decisions ever. And they know that there's a killer. They don't know if it's one of them within the group. They don't know. And they know everybody that's on the island. And they don't know who it is. And the killer is in a mask. And they get glimpses of the killer. And they never see the killer's face. And they get an idea of who the killer is. Like, they have it just an idea. And they just freaking run with it. They're like, yep, I know who it is. It's gotta be who it is. And they just run with it. they just assume they're right and they just run with it. And a lot of the book is them like taking turns freaking out. Like, one of them will freak out and they're like, oh my God, we're all gonna die. And then another one like will just get pissed and they're like, stop freaking out. Like, you gotta stop freaking out. And then that same one that tells them not to freak out will freak out later. And then another one will shake them and be like, stop freaking out. And it's so dumb. Oh my God, it's so stupid. And then the main character, Paisley, she just keeps talking about how much money she has. Like, she'll just keep thinking, oh, it's fine, I have money now. Oh, it's great that I have money now. I'm like, why does that keep getting brought up? It's so weird. And also, she's fighting for her life, literally. And the whole time she keeps thinking, oh, well, all these boys are so cute. I wonder which one I should go for. And, well, I mean, he's really nice, but then also he's got this going for him. You're literally fighting for your life, and one of them could possibly even be a fucking killer, but you're worried about which one is cuter, which one has what going for him, which one you might be willing to date. You know what it reminded me of? This is gonna sound weird, but you know what it reminded me of is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You know how all the kids have these roles, and they're told, hey, don't go here, and don't do this, don't do that, and all these bad things happen to them when they do it. That's what this felt like. It really did. It felt like these kids had rules and they kept breaking them and bad things happened to them. That's what it felt like. It really, truly did. It felt like a horror movie version of that. And instead of the chocolate factory, they were on this island. It really genuinely did. It almost felt like a horror movie parody. It really did, because every horror movie cliche was in here. There were other things that made no sense to me, like with the motive, and like some things that the killer did made no sense. I won't tell you what. Like, I think that gives you enough idea of why I hated it without having to tell you that. But yeah, just ridiculous. The ending was even worse. Like, the ending, I was like, what in the hell? But it is the worst ending. But yeah, just, it didn't work at all for me. I did not care for it. So this is my most unpopular opinion. So on this one, I'm going to tell you the first part. Like, I'll tell you without spoilers. And then before I give any spoilers, I'll let you know, and I'll give you time to skip ahead. That way, if you plan on reading it, you're not getting spoilers. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So, and that is The Carrow Haunt by Darcy Coates. This is the one I've gotten the most flack from because she is a popular author, and this is a popular book, and this is the one I've gotten the most questions about, because I was pretty vague in my review. I didn't want to give it away because I know this is one probably people would want to read, and I didn't want to mess it up for anybody. The vague answer, but more detailed than what I gave you guys before, is set in a haunted house, obviously, the Carrow House. And the main character is Remy. Remy is a tour guide for the Carrow House, which is notoriously haunted. And one day she's asked, like, this guy hangs back from the tour and asks her if she's willing to do like a week-long stay. And at first she says no thank you, but he offers her a pretty good deal in order to do it. And it's going to be not just those two. There's going to be like a little group of people, like professionals and stuff. So they decide to do it. Once they get there, things quickly take a turn because a storm moves in. They end up getting stuck there, and they're completely cut off from anything in the outside world. Like, they don't have phones, they don't have anything, so they're completely cut off. And it's also like there's ocean around, and there's one way to get back, and it's like a bridge, and the ocean is going over the bridge to where they can't get through. So they're completely stuck there once this storm moves in. And things are getting ugly. Well, things get really ugly when one of the guests die. And once that happened, it's very suspicious. So they're thinking the ghost did it. And the ghost is a notorious serial killer or whatever. If you want a book based on vibes alone, this is great. She's good at vibes. The setting is perfection. It's very creepy, very spooky. Lots of spooky things happen. That's great. If you love Darcy Coates books for the spookiness and all that, then yes, I think you might like it. What I didn't like about it was that there was like the characters made really dumb decisions through the whole thing, like really to the point I wanted to like reach in and slap them. They were so stupid. And two, like there was a romance thrown in there that was dumb, and I'm like, it wasn't even believable. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, where did that come from and why? Like, I have a hard time with that anyways, especially when you're in like this life or death situation and you want to throw romance in there. I don't understand it. I never do understand it. I think it's stupid. And it wasn't even a believable romance. It had no chemistry whatsoever, and it just was there for the hell of it, I guess. I don't know. It was really stupid. And then the ending was too neat, which is not what I want for horror. It was all too put together for horror for me. That's not what I expect for horror. And the characters were just complete freaking idiots. And then that romance. So yeah, that's why it didn't work. That's the vague reason why it didn't work. So without giving anything away, I won't give anything away. But yeah, the ending ruined it completely for me. So Now, if you actually plan on reading this, if you haven't read this already and you plan on reading it, then you might want to skip to this timestamp, or I have timestamps down below if you just want to click on it. So I'll give you a few seconds to do that. I've been watching squirrels out my window. If I'm ever looking that way, it's because I'm watching squirrels. They've been all over the place. It's a nice sunny day, so. Okay, moving on to the spoiler section. If you guys have already read this, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't plan on reading it, then you won't have a clue, but I'm going to explain it to you. Things were going really great in this because people were dropping like flies. They were dying all over the place. Which, you know, with horror, you would expect that. You expect people to just like drop like flies everywhere, especially like in a book like this. So things were going great as far as horror goes. It still wasn't perfect because the characters were still complete fucking idiots, but they were dropping like flies, and I'm like, okay, things are really creepy, things are really spooky, like, it's going great. We get to the end, okay? And it's like, just kidding, they're not really dead. They're not really dead. It's like, no, just kidding. The ghost was keeping them in some sort of a stasis to use their energy, but it makes them seem dead, but they're not really dead. So it was like, just kidding, it was a fake out, they're not really dead. Even the dude, there was one dude who had crossed the bridge and got swept away by the ocean at some point because he was going to try to save everybody. Even that dude that had drowned, even he fucking came back. Even he came back. I'm like, so nobody died? Everybody lived? This is a happily ever after story in a horror book? Why? Like, why? So nobody really died. Everybody was a just kidding fake out death. Everybody, even the dude that drowned. And there was a proposal of these people that like don't even really know each other. Yeah, so that's why it didn't work. I was like, the whole thing sucked. The ending completely ruined the 3 stars that it had. 3.5 maybe, because the characters were complete freaking idiots and the romance thing. But that, the whole just kidding, not everybody's really not dead thing ruined it and completely took it down. So yeah, that's why it sucked. If you want a horror book with a happy ending, you might like it. Or if you want a horror book with just vibes, you might like it. But if you want a horror book with actually, where people actually, you know, where things don't go good, then this might not be for you because it sucked. And I won't probably be reading another Darcy Coates book because I've only read 2, that one. And then the one before this, people actually really did die. But the thing that, and it was gruesome and nice and gory, and it did keep me on the edge of my seat. But unfortunately, I guess the killer within the first like 15% of the book. So I might not be reading any more Darcy Coates. Anyways, I'm not saying anything negative about the authors, obviously. You know, that's just my opinion. They just didn't work for me. Those are just my preferences. So yeah, don't come at me. We can have differing opinions. Let me know in the comments if you've read these and you actually liked them. You know, we can have differing opinions. It's fine. Just be nice about it. I will see you next Friday. Bye for now.